I have a question I hope you'll consider. My question is this: does evil exist in your worldview? My question isn't, does evil exist? If we look around us, we watch the evening news, consider history, if we think of Hitler and what he did to the Jews in World War II, lynching of blacks in the South just because of the color of their skin, murder, rape, torture, terrorism, genocide, sex trafficking of young girls, we know these events are evil. My question is, does your worldview have a rational, objective basis for calling them evil? The reason I ask is, if evil does exist, but your worldview can't objectively demonstrate it, how do we know what evil really is? And how do we know that that worldview is really even worthy of keeping? So I want us to consider this. Now, what's a worldview, you may ask? A worldview is just this. It's the way you view the world. It's the grid in which you process information and view what's true and what's false. The other thing we should consider is the difference between subjective truth and objective truth. Subjective truth is this. It's truth to an individual. It primarily has to do with what one believes or what one likes. For example, I believe the color blue is more beautiful than the color yellow. And for the sake of argument, let's say you believe the color yellow is more beautiful than the color blue. In this case, what's true for me, the color blue being most beautiful, is not true for you. You can see why this won't work for such things as moral good or moral evil. Let's put an example to the test. Consider Hitler and his taking Jews to the gas chamber. Now, to me, that's evil. That's a definition of evil even. But to him, he would say it was the morally right thing to do. And if all we have is subjective truth, all I can say to Hitler is, what's true for you is not true for me. But if we're going to have standards, if we're going to have justice, subjective truth is not enough. So what we need is objective truth. Truth that comes from outside of us. It's something that can be measured or known. An example of objective truth is the earth. It orbits around the sun. Now, this is true whether you believe it or not. It's true whether my 4-year-old son knows this or not. And so what we need is objective truth for us to really be able to determine if evil exists. So I want us to consider 4 different worldviews. And remember, we're asking each of these worldviews if they have an objective way to demonstrate that evil exists. The first worldview I want to consider is atheism. Atheism states that there is no God and that we're here as a matter of chance. Most atheists believe that we have arrived on the scene by Darwinian evolution and we're just the most sophisticated animal on the planet. So let me ask you, is it evil for a lion to kill its lion cubs? Or another question that's closer to home, is it evil when my cat catches a mouse and goes on to not just kill it quickly and consume it, but to torture it for half an hour, playing with it, driving that mouse into fits of terror? Now, does that make my cat evil? Well, no, it doesn't, because my cat is just an animal. And if we're just animals, like atheism would say, then there can be no evil in this worldview. And the truth is, that's exactly what Richard Dawkins, the leading atheist of our day, states. He states this: at bottom, there is no design, there is no purpose, there is no good, there is no evil, nothing but pointless indifference. You notice that for Richard Dawkins, the removal of God also means the removal of evil. That's his statement. So the next worldview I want us to consider is agnosticism. Agnosticism states that there can be no proof of God, but doesn't fully deny the possibility of his existence. And if you consider this worldview is primarily saying what it can't know. So it's in some ways a call of ignorance, not of a truth claim. And if we use that last quote by Dawkins in Atheism, where he emphatically denies that evil exists, and we consider agnosticism, we'll see that they're related, that they're quite close together. Because in agnosticism, what they're saying is you just can't know if God exists. And as Dawkins pointed out, if God doesn't exist, evil doesn't exist. So let's look at that quote again by Dawkins. But we're going to interject how an agnostic would say it. An agnostic would say, we just can't know if there's design. We can't know if there's purpose. We can't know if evil or good exist. Really, we can't know if there's any purpose to our lives. That's agnosticism. And that's a worldview that does not objectively have a standard for the existence of evil. The next worldview I'd like us to consider I call generic theism. Let me give you a definition. Someone that adheres to generic theism would say that yes, God exists, but this God doesn't interact or intervene in humanity. They may come to this worldview by looking around, seeing the beauty of the world. They may look at an image brought back to us from the Hubble telescope and say, wow, that's amazing. There must be a creator. There must be a designer. But that's as far as this worldview will go. If we think of this worldview, we realize that there's no revelation of this creator. There's no revelation of what this God is like. And therefore we wouldn't know what standard this God would have. There's no morality wrapped up in this God. And there's no way to know if murder is wrong, if rape is wrong. We don't know if terrorism is wrong, because we don't know at all what this God's will would be. We just see the beauty of this God's creation. So if you consider it with Dawkins' quote, you can see the similarities. All that could be said in this that would be different than Dawkins' quote is, yes, we agree there's a designer, but we couldn't say from this worldview that there's a purpose, or that evil exists, or that good exists. And we might even think that there's still nothing but indifference if we adhere to generic theism. The last worldview I'd like us to consider is Christianity. In the worldview of Christianity, there is a creator God, and this God is communicated to us through divine revelation, through the Bible. Now, the Bible does provide us with a rational, objective basis that's outside of us that states whether there is evil. For example, the Bible makes truth claims, such as, thou shalt not murder. We're not left guessing what God's will is through this worldview. Now, I want you to consider the quote from Richard Dawkins and see the contrast between atheism and Christianity. Let's review that quote. Dawkins states that at bottom, there is no design, there is no purpose, there is no evil, there is no good, nothing but pointless indifference. Now, Christianity is going to say something polar opposite to that. Christianity is going to state that there is a designer, that there is purpose to our lives, that there is evil, but there's also definitely moral good, and that we have a purpose as a people. We have the purpose, we've been created to glorify and worship our Creator God. I hope from this talk that you will consider an investigation of the Bible and Christianity. On this website you'll find a link to a series called The Gospel. The Gospel is just the overarching narrative or the main story of the Bible, and it's a great place to start your investigation. I hope you find it helpful, and thank you for your time.